The following training will cover weekly servicing procedures for containerized trees in Apple stores. This training is for specialists and will follow the standard grow model that we provide for all interior plants. Equipment needed for weekly service includes eye protection and slip resistant shoes, a cell phone, a water machine, and a flow meter that will be used to measure the number of gallons of water added to each tree. Primescape 936 fertilizer and an infuser tube, a 30-inch notched soil probe, and for those of you servicing triple trunk ficuses, a regular soil probe won't go into that soil, so an X-Lux moisture meter should be used instead. Also, pruners, a long reach duster, and a garbage bag are needed, and you may also need a siphon pump to pump out excess water. After checking in with your customer and alerting them that you're on site, let's now focus on GROW. As a reminder, GROW stands for Groom, Rotate, Observe, and Water. First, let's start with grooming by giving the tree a gentle shake to dislodge dying leaves. For weekly service, trees are best cleaned with a long reach duster to remove dust and dislodge any additional leaves. Keep the trees healthy and attractive by pruning out dead, dying, or unwanted shoots. Make sure also that you get rid of any stumps. Heavy pruning and washing of the trees will be performed quarterly. Freshen the decorative mulch, remove any trash, and sweep up any leaves on the floor. If any additional pruning or cleaning is necessary, be sure to inform your manager. Now let's look at rotate. Apple trees are rotated to keep them full, even, and attractive. This is performed with a special device and is done quarterly. Rotating is typically done at the same time as heavy pruning and cleaning and requires coordination with the Apple store. Now let's move on to observe. With observe, we need to look at the trees overall and close up. Pay attention to yellow or brown leaves. If there's more than normal, it could be a sign of too much or too little water. Look and feel for obvious signs of pests. Sticky honeydew residue is a clear sign of soft scale. Inspect for other pests as well, including mites, mealybug, and thrips. Thrips damage is often seen in newer leaves. If pests are found, it's critical to treat them as soon as possible before they spread. If the leaves of the trees are fading in color or you can see the veins in the leaves, there's likely a nutrient deficiency. This is overcome by regularly fertilizing with 936 at a quarter teaspoon per gallon of water at every watering. Never over-fertilize the trees, as this will cause burning and tipping, and since the trees are in relatively small containers, you may choose to fertilize less frequently during winter months. If you have any questions or concerns about fertilizing, contact your manager. Before we water, it's important to consider the health of the trees and the environment they're in. Look at the health of the tree. Healthy trees with lots of foliage use more water than struggling trees with fewer leaves. Be observant of light and temperatures. Trees getting lots of light will use more water. Warmer conditions increase water uptake, and cooler conditions will decrease water uptake. Light and temperatures will strongly influence your watering practices. Our final and most important step before watering is probing soil moisture. For this, we're going to need a 30-inch notched soil probe. If you're caring for triple trunk ficus trees, this soil probe cannot penetrate through the thick root mass, so a deep moisture meter, which is thinner, should be used instead. When probing, go deep and smear the samples with your fingers as you would for any other plant and feel for moisture. Dry soil should always be watered. Moist soil will typically be watered unless the tree is using little water, and wet soil should not be watered. Note the moisture is wet, moist, or dry for the Apple report. Based on your observations of the tree, its environment, and its soil moisture, decide if the tree needs to be watered. If so, add fertilizer at the typical rate of a quarter teaspoon per gallon of water. If you're using a water machine, an infuser tube is needed to add the fertilizer to the tank. Apple requires us to record the amount of water added to each tree at every visit. If watering with a watering can, you can manually count the gallons of water based on the number of watering cans used. If using a water machine, You can save yourself time and hassle of filling up watering cans by using a flow meter. The flow meter is threaded onto your hose and will record the amount of water added in gallons or liters. When watering a tree, start on the outside of the grow pot, which is hidden underneath the seat cover. Most of the feeder roots are in this area, so it's important to get water out there and around all sides. Work your way inward to evenly hydrate the remainder of the root ball. Many apple trees require around 4 to 5 gallons of water per visit, although a tree may require more or less than this amount. The only way to know for sure is to probe the soil. For example, you might water with 4 gallons before stopping to probe the soil to see if the soil is wet or not. Based on your findings, you might add more water, or you may determine the soil is sufficiently wet. If you're unsure, move on to the next tree to give the root ball some time to soak up the water before returning and probing again. You can also check inside the drainage tube to see if excess drainage water has accumulated. Standing water inside the tube means too much water has been added. If this water remains, it could cause the roots to rot, so this excess water needs to be pumped out. When finished watering, record your final probe finding as wet or moist and record the number of gallons added. If a tree didn't need to be watered, that's okay. Just be sure to note that 0 gallons were added so Apple knows the tree was checked and it will be fine until the next service visit. Finish service by cleaning the decorative container and seat covers and discard any trash. Summarize your service with the on-site customer and update them on any replacements or upcoming special service like tree pruning, washing, or rotating.